Welcome to Mystifying Miracles. Today I have a cool story for you that I came across a faith-based blogger who wrote about a miracle that occurred in her life, and it occurred one day prior to Thanksgiving. So I'm going to go into her story, and I hope it's a blessing. Toicher Davidison. She is a blogger based out of Atlanta, and as I was looking for stories, I wanted one that kind of had to do with Thanksgiving. Hopefully I get this story out in time. If not, it might come out right after Thanksgiving. Either way, it's a holiday season. So Toicher, she's a faith-based lifestyle blogger, again, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and she wrote about one particular miracle that happened in her life, and it occurred one day prior to Thanksgiving in 2018. Now, a little bit about Toicher. She loves to write. She loves to laugh. She loves talking about other people's testimonies and how God works through their lives. And she finds those type of things just inspiring. Well, on this day, prior to Thanksgiving in 2018, she claims it was a day she will never forget and hasn't. She says that the Lord just really came through for her that day before police came. That morning, Toicher woke up and she just wasn't having a good day. Physically, emotionally, she said she was having some chest pain and that was due to just deep grief of that particular date. On that same date in a prior year, she had gotten the news that her mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And so because that was that date, she was just having a really hard time with grief and missing her mother, as of course, her and her mother had a very close relationship growing up. Well, later on that afternoon, Toicher goes to the Big Bear grocery store in Atlanta. She just needed to pick up a few last-minute things for Thanksgiving. And of course, the store is just jam-packed, right? So it takes her a while to find a spot to park, but she finally does. She parks, gets out, goes inside, and begins to shop. She did say in her blog that she ran into her cousin Cookie and they stopped and chatted for a few minutes, and then she goes and proceeds to check out with all of her items. Toicher rolls her groceries out, puts them in the car. She begins to back up slowly in reverse. And that's when it happened. She backs up. Even though she was going slowly, she still hits the car that was passing by. Now, it was just a fender bender, thank goodness. But nonetheless, Toicher pulls her car back up into the spot where she had just backed out of. She proceeds to get out to go exchange her information to the woman she just backed into. But the lady actually got out of her car and she comes around and she just starts cursing up a storm. And I mean laying into Toicher. Toicher was didn't know what to do. She tried to get a word in edgewise, but this lady wasn't having it. I mean, she was screaming. Toicher described it as this woman was irate. And Toicher couldn't calm her down. The lady just kept cursing, and that's despite the lady having 2 small children in her car. Toicher didn't know what to do, so she just decides to get back in her car calmly, sit there, and go ahead and call police. While she waits for the police to come, she decides to go ahead and phone her husband, let him know what happened. Might take a little bit of extra time before she gets back home. And then she hangs up the phone with him, and she said that just all these thoughts began to flood her mind. Things such as, oh no, how much is insurance going to go up? What if the cop comes and gives me a ticket? Toicher and her husband were having hard times financially, so these money worries were just really getting to her. Well, she didn't know what to do, so Toicher begins to pray, and she begins to chat with God. And she tells God, Lord, I know that you're aware of my situation financially, emotionally. I haven't, been feeling well today because thinking about my mother, she knew that God was aware of all of those aspects of her life. And she cries out to God and she says, Lord, have mercy. And then she waited for the police to come. Toicher says about 10 minutes went by when all of a sudden the woman gets out of her car and comes up to the side window of Toicher's car to try to get her attention. Toicher proceeds to get out of her vehicle, and the woman tells her that she canceled the police coming out and that Toicher could just go ahead and leave. Of course, this left Toicher completely shocked. I mean, she's standing there thinking, huh? Nonetheless, despite the shock, she proceeds to ask the woman, well, can I at least do something nice for you and your children? But the woman said no. But then the woman told Toicher, she said, yeah, I had just been arguing with my mother on the phone. We were in a bad argument, and this whole incident, it ain't nothing but the devil. Well, Toicher couldn't agree more. She agreed with that assessment. Toicher confided in the woman. She told her that, yeah, I'm a faith-based blogger, and they chit-chatted for a few minutes. Toicher also offered, to do the woman's hair, nails, anything to make up for this little mishap. But the woman, she denied she didn't want that. She just wanted to go on her way. Toicher had some good advice at the end of this story, and she says that should anyone ever find themselves in a situation as such, like hers, that they should take a moment to stop, take a deep breath, and try to actually think of a solution. It's good to stay positive, analyze things, the situation and whatnot, before letting your anger get to a point to where you're just hostile. And of course, another good tip is to always talk with God. Pray, chat with him. Toicher says that on that day, God miraculously touched that woman's heart to be able to say, no, I canceled the police coming. We're going to disregard all this. That was miraculous because the woman, as we saw in the beginning of the story, she was very irate. Toicher did not have to pay for any damages. All was forgiven. And Toicher said that she was so touched by what happened that day that now on that date, whereas that date was always filled with depression and sadness because she think of her mother's diagnosis. Well, now she says she replaces those thoughts and feelings with this new situation. And now she remembers on this date when it comes up every year how God worked out something so miraculously for her. I thought that a great idea, especially this time of year around the holidays. Lots of people tend to get just kind of depressed and they start thinking about their loved ones that they lost. It can be a trying time for many people, but it's a good idea what Toicher did to try to replace those feelings and thoughts with something positive, something good, and, build up new memories so that you're not feeling so down. And of course, always give praise to God because there's always good things that are in this world and in this life that we can be thankful for. I hope this little story was a blessing to you guys. I was excited to read this one, a little bit different, but still miraculous. Thank you all for watching, for being here. I hope you're having a blessed week. I hope you're having a lovely or had a lovely Thanksgiving. And I'm going to see you guys for the next one.